how do I know if this is working? Well, I mean, did they do what you want them to do? I mean, that I think it's kind of that simplistic. Like, did they click that link? Yes or no? Did they sign up? Oh, okay. How many signups is that? I would, and every phase is different. So I would definitely recommend like having very clear goals for campaigns. So if it's just clicks, how many clicks? I would look at your click through rate and the number of clicks.
Welcome to Marketing Stuff. If you're looking for a way to get more eyes on your business, well, I have a treat for you. I'm your host, Maurice Davis, the on-demand CMO. Greetings and welcome back. If you're a returning guest, well, welcome back to Victory Village. I'm so glad to have you here. If you're new to the show, well, welcome to the crew. Come on in. We'll get you acclimated and ready to go. Our mission here is to help you level up your marketing skills in a practical and relatable way. This show is dedicated to helping marketers and entrepreneurs understand this stuff in a digestible manner. So hit the subscribe button and get ready for new episodes filled with actionable tips and insights. Without further ado, let's dive in today and get to know our guest today. She is a seasoned demand marketer with a wealth of experience in building and scaling the prospecting experience through innovative strategies. She's a rock star of the user behavior and a pro when it comes to CRM platforms, including HubSpot. There's a big bold there, HubSpot, Salesforce, and much more. Welcome, my friend, Sherry. How you doing, lady?
I'm doing great. I love the vibe here. This is really cool. So thanks for having me. Hanging out today. I love it. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. Side note, little thing, we didn't talk about this before the show started, but it's okay. On this show, we do this thing where I talk about guests and I mention where I met them from, and if they're from TikTok and people send in the message and they got the right count, then they can enter and form a prize. I did not meet Sherry on TikTok.
Nope. Mm-mm.
But what you can do at this point, go ahead and email me the number of guests that you've noticed so far that are from TikTok. And if you have the correct number, then I will enter you into a drawing at the end of the month for a semi-fabulous prize. I don't know what it is yet, but you will find out sooner or later. All right, so let's jump into today's conversation. You are a demand generation pro, and I love how you chuckle. But I before we can really talk about any of the tips and insights, let's jump into what is demand generation and how's that any different than these companies and folks that are talking about lead generation?
Oh man, that's a great question. And depending on who you ask, you'll get different answers. But at the crux of it, demand is kind of what it says. We are creating an increased desire for your product or your service. And we are identifying folks who are potentially interested, and we're taking that interest and we're leveling up. And we're using a lot of different tactics to do that. There's expertise that surrounds that. But we are creating demand. So we're taking something, instead of saying my car, it's my fancy new, like top of the line. Like there's ways to really like enhance the level of desire so that we're creating demand. That's demand generation. The tactics that are used to create that desire for your project, for your product, as well as ways to kind of lead people down that path. Now, lead generation, on the other hand, that's a little bit before you get closer to becoming a customer. That's you collecting information about a potential customer. So you're just collecting, like maybe it's demographic information. Maybe they downloaded a piece of content on your website. They are a lead now. They are a lead for you to nurture them during the sales process or the buyer's journey. They're a lead. So it's great. They're in your database. Maybe they're in your HubSpot CRM, and you are following up with them through email, through maybe chat, maybe you're retargeting on social media. They're a lead. That's lead generation. So lead generation is something where they can be high intent. They can be middle of the funnel, if you will, or they could just be someone brand new who's just kind of checking you out, right? So that's lead generation. Demand generation is really specific and specialized in how we then take that interest and then convert them into maybe a marketing qualified lead, an MQL, a sales qualified lead, a SQL, or becoming a customer. And then how do you do that sort of towards the end of that funnel or in that consideration stage of the buyer's journey? So that's sort of like the general, like broad scopes of the difference between the two.
Yeah.
I sit on the demand side of things. So like I'm dealing with people who are like really showing intent that they are interested. And now like my question is, well, how do I turn that interest into a paid customer? So that's sort of that. Make sense?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. By the way, for anybody unfamiliar with HubSpot, go check out their free CRM at HubSpot.com. They got tons of really amazing tools. They were by far interesting story. I don't know if you and I talked about this, but HubSpot was one of the first places that I went to when I was first starting to learn marketing.
Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The email marketing and content marketing certification were like the first two that I ever took.
Let's hear it. Yes. Do you still have those certifications? Do you like have that? Like, did you print it or did you like download it or do you put that on your LinkedIn or what do you do with that? That's a big accomplishment.
That's funny. It is on my LinkedIn, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't really talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
At this point, like I think I have like 25 different certs.
Yeah.
And so it just gets to be like, okay.
Dude,
okay.
You're just like a ninja. Like, what are you getting certs in? My goodness.
Well, it's conversion rate optimization, email marketing, all types of stuff. We could talk about that off the line. But yes, if I want to learn something new, a lot of times I go take a cert.
Okay.
You know, I'll start there so that I can have a good foundation, and then I'll branch off into other books and stuff to deepen my knowledge. But I appreciate you kind of walking us through the difference between demand gen and lead gen, because as I've matured as a marketing professional, I've run into these things. Mm-hmm. And somebody's like, I'm a demand specialist and I'm a lead gen specialist. And like, as a new marketer or a new business owner, these topics are important to understand the difference, but there's just so much, right?
A ton. Yeah.
And so when I have people like, this marketing stuff is overwhelming, I'm like, yo, I'm in it. And I'm like, what is that? Like right. the other day I was reading something about branding and they were like all factory branding. And I was like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like somebody's getting paid to focus on how things smell. And I was like, yo, that's cool. But I had no clue. And so every time I run into somebody that's in these different, I guess, sub niches within marketing, I am fascinated about what you do. So share with us a little bit, like what does a general day look like for somebody that works in demand gen?
Yeah, it's fun because it's very different every single day. And that's what I love. I feel like you're using different sides of your brain. So for example, even before I jumped on the call, I was just working on finishing up a write-up. So I was writing a report on the results of an experiment that I've done. So you're doing the execution where you're running experiments and then you have a very formalized experimentation doc. It's very disciplined in itself. And then you're writing that up, you're checking results, you're looking at data and reports. And you're also sort of analyzing numbers. So you're sort of an analyst as well as like a reporter. That's one side of things. On another side of things, depending on the month, you might be strategizing and creating a deck, a presentation. So there's presentations that I create for my team on ways to brainstorm new ideas for the next quarter, the next month. We do prioritization workshops. We present. I presented last week on the experiment that ran. And then also you're just sharing your ideas. Honestly, I think that's across the board, across industries. Like if you're going to be a leader in marketing, one good thing is just to really get used to communicating with everyone at all levels and communicating your ideas, really believing your ideas. And that's kind of what I've been working on is like, hey, I think we can do this better when it comes to this particular aspect of marketing. And the marketing has, like you said, it's a big beast. It's a monster. Like what aspect of marketing? Well, I think this particular aspect is where I'm seeing the area of opportunity. And so for that, you begin communicating your ideas. And I like to do video because it's easier than just typing or audio. So I might just create like a Loom video and say, okay, here's the gap. Here's what I think this is my idea, and then I'll present that to my manager, and then she'll totally ninja that, and she'll create like um, a document, and then say, okay, this is kind of how we break it down. This is what I hear you saying. This is what I think we can do. This is kind of where we'll slide it in, and boom. And so you're communicating your ideas, you're reporting on your results, you're writing. I write, the channel that I work in is email. And so I'm writing emails. So there's a lot that goes on, and it's fun because you're not going to get bored, and you're going to really just grow. And then hopefully you're helping others around you grow. And that's a really cool part about working with HubSpot, is that we are all really striving to grow, and we're all kind of doing different things on different days, and so that's kind of the variety. We have a nice like buffet of variety of things that we can do on a daily basis. So yep.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, was your team responsible for the like pirate ship commercial?
Yes. No, not my team specifically. So like we have a full on brand sector of marketing, and marketing's
Okay.
huge, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so that's the brand team's whole thing. And I don't think I'm as smart to work on that team. So they do a really great job, and I'm excited about all the visuals and the fun play on the pirates. And our thought leader in that aspect too. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Kudos to the brand team.
Absolutely. So that is actually a really great segue to the next question
Yeah.
around demand generation. So how do I fit this demand gen, or how does it work with the whole like idea of branding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. So they actually are quite different, which is why the way our company is structured is very different. Like, so branding is the idea. I always used to say branding is how your audience or the world perceives you.
Mhm.
Marketing is what you communicate to your audience. So there's two sort of sides of the coin here. And branding is the look, it's the feel, it's the association of how you would describe like HubSpot. It's sort of the stories we're telling through our visual imagery, through our tone, through our colors. That is in my opinion, is the branding. And in
Right.
order to connect that part to what you're saying, the demand part, well, I mean, it connects because what the branding it allows the demand marketer to do is to have that recall. So there's some user behavior science principles in demand that allows you to trigger the recall of what they may have experienced in the branding part. So if they're seeing a billboard, or if they're seeing a commercial, and it's making them have evoke these feelings of, right now we're doing a pirate series, which is really fun, of like, we can conquer the seven seas, and then it makes them feel like they are sort of like, like in charge of their quest. And then the demand marketer then can bring those emotions up with specific demand marketing principles and make them feel like, yes, you are in charge of your own destiny. And
Right.
by the way, you should click this link to give us a try, right? So there's a way we can kind of connect brand and demand with having those things recalled, those same emotions evoked that the amazing brand team has done, so that we are able to use that extra awareness that brand has created, that feeling that brand has created, and we take those key components and then we translate that into what's the next step in the sales process. And maybe it's a call with a sales rep, maybe it's a way for you to try out our product, or and maybe you want to have you want to sign up for our free product. So whatever the next step is, we can take all of the awareness that brand has done, because they've done a lot of heavy lifting for us, and then really translate that into the next step in the sales process, which is your call to action. So that's kind of how I see the two working together
Yeah.
in that aspect.
So for a small business owner, if I wanted to, if I'm liking what you're saying, and I think like my problem is I need more demand for my product or for my service, how do I go about what would be my first step into starting demand generation for my business?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that question. I think the first step is understanding your audience. Your If you want to generate demand, you want to know what they want, so that then you go and create what they want. When I was a sales coach for service-based professionals, I would create programs, sort of these incubator programs, where I would bring people into a weekly Zoom coaching session, and then they would have pre-recorded videos as well. But the funny thing is, when I launched this program, it wasn't even done. I was selling a 4-figure program, but it wasn't complete. And the reason why is because I want to create what they want. So I base my strategy, my demand strategy, based on my audience. And literally, the marketing words I will use are the exact words verbatim of my audience. So I would go
Right.
and ask them, how do you describe this? What do you want? How would you describe it? And those description words, that's your marketing. So if you want to create demand as a small business owner, I would say really understand and get really intimate with the knowledge of who your audience is, what they want, how they describe what they want. Write that down and then use that to create a campaign. That campaign uses their words, it uses their desires, even like the fears around that. What are those things like? What are the emotions around that? Like having sort of those insights, which just comes by doing, asking, and really seeing what resonates. Even if you have a bunch of posts on social media, which posts are getting the most likes? Why? Because they like this phrasing. Okay, take that phrasing and do more of that, right? And so you're listening out, you're looking out for what resonates with your audience. That becomes your marketing, and your demand becomes, okay, you say you want this, maybe you give them half of that. Right. This is called so here's a cool tip. This is called the half now, half later strategy. Yay. So half now, if you have sound effects, you can cue like the applause. Half now, half later strategy. So you know what they want because you've done some research. Oh, look at it. I wasn't even expecting it. You're just on it today. That's hilarious. So here's a really cool demand tip. Half now, half later strategy allows you to give your audience a little bit of what they need, and it is fulfilling. And then your call to action becomes, okay, here's another problem. We gave you this, we solved this problem. Here's another problem. Here's another gap. If you want to solve this other problem that I'm raising to you, then you can take this next step. And then that's this next step in your sales process, whatever the case may be, however you lay out your sales process. And that's a really good demand strategy, but definitely starts with knowing who your audience is and what their desires are.
Got it. So for my small business owners out there, because what you're saying is so phenomenal, right? My small business owners out there that have small audiences, sometimes you'll look at this and go, how do I get started? Well, one way you can do that is by going into the Facebook groups of your audiences and typing in keywords like help with, I need, and start looking at it that way. If you don't have an email list, you don't have an audience, you're brand new to business, this is a way that you can get started, because yes, we want to talk to our audience, but if you ain't got nobody, right, we still need to get this process rolling. And this can be a great way for you to do that.
Love that. So good. That's actually a really good point. And then come up with a list of just like 5 things and then I started by doing Facebook Lives. And then I would just call, and I didn't care who joined. I just jumped on, did a live about a specific topic. So basically I used the problem solution method. Here, you have this problem, here's a solution. And whoever got on there, oh, are they going to be my audience? Like, I would maybe follow up with them and just see what resonates and then start drawing people in with content. So if you have nobody, if you've got one person in your audience, create content. Create content to solve a problem. And I love your idea, Maurice, about going into Facebook groups, because you'll see the problems there. If you see a big problem that multiple people are sort of like plus oneing, I would go ahead and create a solution around that through content, whatever media is easy for you, and then build off from that. But that's a great point about Facebook groups.
Yeah, I wish that was my idea. That's Pat Flynn's and Ryan Levesque's idea.
I'm on his list. Yes.
Those are 2 very smart individuals. So if this is the type of stuff that you're struggling with, I would go check out Pat Flynn's Superfans and Ryan Levesque's Ask Method.
I have that book. Yes.
Yep.
I just haven't read it all the way yet. Ask. Yes.
Skip
It's a good one.
skip to the second half. That gives you all the DDS nuggets. The first half is like about his life, which is a little odd, but hey, whatever floats his boat, man.
Oh my gosh. I did a video with that book in my hand. And I like, that was one of my tips was like, hey, if you want to create demand, you need to ask. And I said this, it's on YouTube. I said, you can't ask for the sale. And I had the book in my hand. It said ask. And I was like, if you can't ask for the sale unless you give value first. So first you give value and then you ask for the sale. So good memories, fun memories. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So I've started my demand gen efforts, right? I'm a new business owner. I'm just getting into it. How do I measure it? That I'm actually doing something.
I'm doing it. Yeah. Is this working? How do I know if this is working?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did they do what you want them to do? I mean, that I think it's kind of that simplistic. Like, did they click that link? Yes or no? Did they sign up? Oh, okay. How many signups is that? I would, and every phase is different. So I would definitely recommend like having very clear goals for campaigns. So if it's just clicks, how many clicks? I would look at your click-through rate and the number of clicks. If we're talking demand, that's going to get into demand for your product or your service. So are people trying your product more? How many more? So I'm measuring how many people did a trial or how many people signed up to join. Maybe it's, if you're service based, how many people join like a Zoom workshop that maybe you'll do. And by the way, I definitely suggest creating a lot of free opportunities for people to sort of have touch points with you, because the more touch points you build up, the more demand you're creating. They say it takes between 8 to 12 touch points before a prospect becomes a customer. So if you can do a 30-minute like Zoom workshop and yeah, it could be free. Just bring them all in there. That's lead gen, by the way. Maybe they're signing up and giving you the email. Okay. And then take those leads and then say, okay, at the end of all this value, going back to Ryan again, at the end of that workshop, you can say, hey, who wants to take the next step? And if they signed up for something, if they bought something small, if you have a value ladder, maybe you have different tiers of your product, and you just measure how many of those particular things that they did, how many conversion points are you getting based on your goals, I think is a really great way to measure. And having different sort of tiers or price points at HubSpot, we have our free, our starter, our pro, and our enterprise, right? And so like how many are coming in, that's how we measure. And I think that's a really great way to measure success. But again, value first and then ask for that sale. So like you can ask, I say, listen, you can ask all day long as long as you give value ahead of that. So
yeah. And you make a really great point here as far as the, like increasing the amount of touch points, right?
Yeah.
I have so many small business owners that are like, how do I create leads? How do I like, look, one of the best ways is like, just go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
And that sounds so like big and blanket, but February 22nd, and by the time this airs, we're recording this on February 22nd. By the time you hear it, this will have already happened. But I'm doing a free training on using ChatGPT for small business owners. Right. It's like, I wasn't planning on it, but I posted something and people kept talking about it. Then people were asking questions and like, I'm like, look, let's just do the training real quick. Right. And this is one of those things where I'm using the tool. There are people that want to use the tool, but like, if we're honest, they don't want to use the tool because they love ChatGPT. They want to use the tool because they're hoping for an outcome. Mm-hmm. And if I can show you how to use ChatGPT to get an outcome, the problem is, and why I think AI and things like ChatGPT are amazing, but I'm not afraid that it's going to replace me, is that if you don't know what to put into it, you won't get what you should coming out of it. And if you don't have any context, you won't know that what's coming out of it is going to work for your business or not.
That's right.
Right. So even if it tells you exactly what to do, you're still going to need somebody to know how to do it and know if the thing that they're doing is right for your business. And so I'm happy to show every small business how to create preliminary marketing plans with ChatGPT.
There you go.
Like,
Listen, you guys see what Maurice just did? Let me break it down super quick in 10 seconds. So he found, so there's this new thing, and then there's opportunity. There's a knowledge gap. It's an information gap. People want to get to one side and they just need a bridge to get there. So Maurice is being that bridge, which is a very helpful thing. He's creating value, providing value, because we're all going to need to learn how to do this at some point in a
yeah.
certain way. And again, it's technology, but there's so many, like, we have to figure out how the humans work with bots, right? So how does that work together? And so I'm excited about this training, and make sure I'm in on the invite as well. Thank you.
Yes, I'll send you a link. I'll send
All
you a
right,
link.
perfect.
But I'm pretty stoked about it, and it goes to your point of like one of the best ways, and this is kind of a tangent, but one of the best ways for service-based businesses specifically
Mhm.
to generate demand and to generate leads is to like do these free trainings.
Yeah.
Like you, you get so many people that sign up, you'll get so many people that sign up and won't show up, but it like to almost to a point, it doesn't matter because you're getting a chance to get your reps in.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
that's the part that gets missed. It's like, I need reps,
oh
right?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And not only reps, and then you learn so much about what really resonates. So, for instance, you posted about GPT. So, like, now, basically, like, it levels up to, okay, now we should do a workshop, and now, okay, so now, and then something's going to happen on the workshop, and then you're going to take something from that. Like, oh, okay, so this is interesting. So there's going to be a lot of insights you're going to gather, especially if you're a service-based entrepreneur, small business. Like, you want to make sure that you are putting yourself out there, you're creating content, and then always listen out and check in and analyze, like, how did this go? And then there's going to be certain people who are just going to follow you, and they're going to start following you. And to be honest with you, I had one person when I was a sales consultant for service-based entrepreneurs who would just buy everything that I had. It didn't even matter what I was launching. Like,
Yeah.
there's gonna be people who are just gonna follow you because they like you. They've got that know, like, and trust factor, and they just gonna. It could be anything. I'd be like, campaign in a box, okay, or summer special, okay. Like, it didn't matter. They love you, and they'll buy your stuff. So.
Absolutely. And those are great, right? And
Mhm.
and that kind of gets to that like how do I create super fans type thing?
Yeah,
Because if you can get enough of them, then you're good. You can eat for life
yeah,
off of a
man.
few super fans. So we talked a little bit about how can you measure it. Well,
Mhm.
if I'm getting started, I'm doing these events and I'm ready to kind of take it to the next level. I've been posting content. How does a business scale their demand gen efforts
Mhm.
if they have a limited budget?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Scaling is important because you're one person.
Mhm.
So, I'll give you a couple of ideas. One, if you have, like, I know you have a limited budget. However, if there's opportunities to have a virtual assistant at all for a couple hours a week, that's something that you can consider. And using some of the websites like Fiverr or was it Odette? Upwork. There's
Yeah.
several of them. If you can have someone sort of come in and do some of the admin stuff so that you can stay high level, you can create your content, you can answer questions, you can go in and plan. But if you don't, here's another option. You want to rely on, like, if you have a CRM. Again, HubSpot has a free CRM, so I'm just going to keep plugging HubSpot because I love them. Use automation. Okay, so use whatever automation tools that are available to you at whatever level you are at. So there's
Yep.
different levels. There are going to be different ways to automate things, and so automation is going to help you to just communicate, and that lead generation stuff that we talked about, sort of following up with those leads in an automated way. That's going to be really important, making sure that they know what events that are happening, and then that's sort of automated.
Mhm.
um, Scale by asking people who are becoming super fans of yours to share. Have them DM them and say, listen, I have a launch coming up. Really partnering with folks on getting the word out about things, using tools, using technology. The things that you're going to learn about Chat GPT is going to be helpful once we get it and dial that in, and kind of uh, decrease the amount of time that it will take to create content. So whatever technologies you have at your fingertips, depending on where you are with your business, I would use, and particularly automation to help you kind of scale and grow. And then the last thing I would say about it is, um, consider high ticket stuff. Like consider, I mean, as a if you're in the service based space, right? You're
Yep.
selling your services. Like that's the space that I was in. And I sold my time with them. I sold my resources. I would create trainings, and I would just get, and I would work with like 5 people, but like that worked out well because these were high ticket offers, like pricing structure as well can be something. And the thing is, you don't have to be afraid to charge because you are offering a lot of value. And when you
Yeah.
look at how you offer value, you look at how you're making a transformational change for your audience. Some people will pay, you know, a ton of money to solve a huge big problem, and it could just be 1 or 2 clients and you're good for, whatever, a month or two or something like that. So there's a lot of ways to look at it: automation, pricing structure, a virtual assistant, and then partnerships are all areas that I would consider based on where you are, and ways you can kind of scale and grow. And then the last thing I said, I just not thought about this last one, is repurpose that stuff. Repurpose your content. Please make sure that, like, if you're doing a
Yeah.
post, I need to do this too. Like, I do videos, right? And so, like, why am I not transcribing that as an article, Maurice? I don't know. I haven't done it yet.
I can tell you why, because it's another step. And every time you add a step, it's just one less thing that you're like, you're just like, this is another thing for me to do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're bringing up automation, because a lot of the stuff that we're sharing, especially if you have a little more money and you're ready to start offloading things, I will tell you, if we're trying to scale content, I'm going to tell you, go automations first and really max out those automations to kind of take off some of that work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to scale operations, then definitely get yourself an assistant. I have one. She's fantastic. She does stuff like she messages people in my group. That's what she does most of the time. And she also logs emails that I have an email database of like marketers that email me, and I take their emails, I save them, and then I also copy their landing pages, and we have them in a database. I got 4,000 emails that we've been logging for the last 4 months, right?
Wow.
And so that's a tool that I use when I'm like, I don't know what to write. I don't know what, I got to write these sales emails. What am I going to write? Well, there it is, right? So that's something that she does for me that I don't have to worry about. And so when you're looking at these things, your next scalable step doesn't have to be these big monster systems.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think when we think about like, I got to hire someone or I have to create automation, it's like a lot of things that go into it. But sometimes it's as simple as like, you no longer have to hit approve on those Facebook group approvals, right? Like it's just something else is doing that for you. So I love that.
Absolutely. For sure.
I love that. So what books are you reading right now? I was going to ask you books and YouTube channels, but I already know where this is going. So what books and YouTube channels are you reading right now or enjoying to help you grow as a marketer?
Oh man, listen, I have thoroughly enjoyed using behavioral science in marketing by Nancy Harhide. Like, I am a super fan. Like, I want super fans, but I am a super fan of Nancy Harhide. And the reason is because she's figured out, and I've called them these secret gems, hidden gems, gold nuggets. She's figured out a way to take marketing best practices and layer on behavioral science. I was like, oh, that just makes so much sense to do that, because we're trying to drive demand. We're trying to increase desire. We're trying to attract ideal customers and clients. But
Yep.
like, if we can understand how people think a little bit better, and then we can just add on marketing to that, like, boy, that is a winning combination. And she's figured it out. I did a whole video on it, and then I said, please let me interview you. She said, okay. And then, and now it's like, it's phenomenal. So anyway, I definitely recommend the book. Where is it, by the way? I'm looking behind me. It's behind me.
I see you got a Seth Godin book back there.
I do. I know. I think I love Seth. So
Yeah, it's interesting because that's actually, so back to our intro, that's actually how you and I got connected.
Yes, it is. We like geeked out about it, and we just became friends over a book. Oh, we're like book buddies, Maurice.
We are book buddies. Have you finished it all the way?
Oh, 100%. Maurice,
Okay.
look at this. I got everything here. Like I've got.
See, I'm so mad at you that you don't have those, like,
digital now.
yeah, like what you made them and then deleted it, like, or don't have it anymore. Like, what's the madness?
I don't. I said, okay, I'm going to test them. This will be my testing phase, and if they work, then we will like just give it all, like share, like have people like see all these things, create a menu of this. So I'm literally testing one right now called, and I don't even know if this one was in a book. I think there's one that I just heard her say on a workshop. It's called the pull of the magnetic middle. And this behavioral science principle basically says that humans tend to not want to be on the bleeding edge of the left or the right. Like we kind of like to be in the middle of things.
Yep.
And like, I just want to test it out to see like if this is true or not. And to see like, okay, let me try it real quick. And then like Nancy, you need to create products now. She needs to do it.
I thought it was weird that she didn't have like a cheat sheet or a workbook or like flashcards or something that you can download. Like I did. I was like, I'm looking through the book. I'm like, bruh, where the flashcards at? Like,
she has checklists on at the end of every single chapter. So like you have checklists. Now, have you finished the whole book? Have you just started it? Yeah.
No, I'm like 70-something% of the way through it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get how it's structured, where there's stories and there's this, and it's so rich and everything, but it's like why, like this should just be in curriculums in school. This should just be, I'm like, is this not like, and I was asking her, I was like, I know this is a really silly question and I'm really sorry about asking this, but like, why isn't everyone doing this? That's what I was asking. So
yeah, it's interesting to me because, you know, most of the stuff, have you read Influence?
I have not, by Robert Cialdini. And I'm like, dude, is this my second book? Have you read Influence?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where she got it from. I mean, that was her inspiration. I know you're laughing, like with Switch.
Yeah,
that's her inspiration.
Like, how did you get here and miss Influence? That's funny. Yeah, Influence, and I've read Persuasion.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. So like when I'm reading her stuff, like I'm like, oh, I know where this came from, right? But I will say this, I think, and this is funny, I think she does a better job showing examples and relating it to like her life in a way that is much more digestible than what I got when I read Influence. Now, that may be because I have the context and experience to understand it a little better, because I read Influence for the first time probably about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And then I read it again probably about 2 years ago. It's about time for me to do it again.
Interesting. So, okay, this is really interesting because I literally am like, do I need to go read Influence or Persuasion right now? Or what's my next one? Because I got another one she recommended or she talked about in the book called The Red Thread by Tamsin Webster. Okay. So I got that one, but I'm curious actually, how closely related are the two? I know this was her inspiration. I know this is sort of where she started going down this path.
Yes.
Was with Robert Cialdini. And I know this is sort of like the catalyst for everything that she's been doing. So is Influence like sort of like 7, because she's got 25, what was it? She's got 25 principles in the book. So what's the difference with Influence versus
So I feel like he really focuses in on a few.
Okay.
Right? Like he's like, we're gonna dig deep on these
Yeah.
because it's like 300 and some pages, and it's just I think there's technically more than 7 in the book, but he doesn't specifically call them out, right? Whereas Nancy specifically calls out the 21. But if you're like reading the book, and if she didn't call them all out, you wouldn't pick up 21. You would only pick up the, like, what is it, 12? How many chapters? Like
She's
18 chapters or something?
She's got 17 chapters and 25. And I didn't know it was 25 because, like, I literally did a video on 3 of them. And she's like, yeah, we've got 25. I was like, what?
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Like I said 21. I'm like, I think it's more than that. So she does like 2 per chapter, basically. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that if she just like did the chapters and didn't specifically label them, you wouldn't pick up on the fact, because some of them are so closely related that they can be easily missed. And so, like, I will say this, in Influence, he is talking more about like the 7 primary drivers of persuasion. Persuasion, he gets into, I don't remember how many, but he gets into the stuff that happens before you get into like the influence. So you put them together, I think it's probably like 15-ish different principles.
Okay.
And so, like, I think that if I were to recommend that somebody read them in a specific order, it would be Nancy's book first.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. It would be Nancy's book first, because she does a really good job of bringing it down to a more understandable level, even if through nothing else, her structure. The structure by itself will force you to be more in line with, like, catching some of the points that she's driving home. Right. So, yes.
Fine. Okay. See, we had our book moment because that's how we met. We had our book moment. That was good.
We did. And then the last question I have for you is, if the listeners could only take away one thing from today's show, what would it be?
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now you're making me choose. Thank you. I mean, I think it was all good, by the way. So there's that. One key takeaway when I'm thinking about the audience here, if you're a small business and you're looking to drive demand, I would say to go for it, put yourself out there and create the content so that you can learn. It's really not about being perfect, it's being in motion to perfect. So you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be in motion to perfect. And that comes with some of the tactics we mentioned here today about the Facebook group, about go ahead and create your content and see what happens, ask questions. So get yourself in motion, keep going. As you grow, you'll have more resources and opportunities to scale and level up and add assistance and different things like that. So definitely put yourself in motion to perfect. And I think that will definitely help you. Demand is about being excited about what you're selling. I'm sorry, I am totally breaking the rules as far as one thing, but if you are going to sell something, you have to believe in it 100%. So it's 2 things: get in motion to perfect. And number 2, believe in your product or service. If you don't, go back to the drawing board and create the thing that you absolutely get behind, because when you love what you're selling, then the selling part and the demand part comes a lot easier for you. So love what you're doing and you're putting forth. Absolutely, like, embrace that. And then that way, when you're driving demand and when you're talking about your product or service, you have that passion, and that passion reads through to your audience. Yeah.
I'm okay with the fact that you broke the rules this one time. I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and having our book buddy moment. That is a wrap for today's episode of Marketing Stuff. I hope today was helpful and insightful for you. If you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll respond to 100% of the comments that come through, or you can message us at Facebook at Marketing Stuff Podcast. We can't wait to see you again in the next episode, where we continue to bring you whatever's going on in marketing space so that you can learn from what we've done, our mistakes and our triumphs. Until next time, make your marketing count. And outside of that, stay out here winning, yo.